It's a real honor for us to have Yoni Asseraf, who left his place in the States, went back and joined his unit, an elite unit, elite infantry unit of the paratroopers, who's been fighting in Yunis. And he's really here to tell his story. It's a story that really encompasses everything, whether it's a function of losing friends, it's a function of dealing with some of the most challenging battles. And it's really a function of a sense of a determination and loyalty. As these reservists who came back and were on the front line, not only saving Israel, but on the front line of humanity. His story is fascinating. Yoni's a fascinating person. And in his story, he's going to share with us, actually, there's going to be a presentation. So we'll have a chance to watch that, to learn from Yoni, and then to ask him some questions afterwards. Yoni, really thank you for sharing with us, for engaging us, and for educating us.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with you. I also have a past relationship with FIDF. Myself, I also studied and I got a scholarship from the FIDF back at the time when I studied law and business in the IDC. So for me, FIDF, it's a family. So it's an honor also for me to be here and to share just a little bit. So to dive in, I know that many people are in a state of uncertainty because of the war. People are asking how come that still the hostages are being kept in Gaza, what's going to be next, what's going to be in the north. Not only this, of course, the media is filled with many articles, and it's even more making the situation complex for people to understand, and it's very challenging. But I want to come with a different perspective because people tend to think and to speak about trauma and about post-trauma, this is in a very negative connotation. But I want to share with you a different perspective about the trauma. I like to see it in a different place, in a different context. And I want to offer how people can basically look at the trauma and grow from it. Okay, because people think about the situation that happened and they don't actually understand that things that happened in the past can be changed. And the suffering and the anxiety of people come from the place of not accepting what was happening. While once we accept it and we understand that that was in the past, it gives us more desire of continuing. Okay. So I will share now, and that's the most interesting part. I will share a little bit photos and videos from Gaza. Myself, I'm 39 years old, and I was born and raised in Ashkelon. And let's go and share the presentation. So for those of you who don't know, Ashkelon is a city south of Israel, very close to the Gaza envelope. And exactly 2 years before October 7th, I moved to the US because of a business opportunity. So I was in October 7th, I was in the US. October 7th, it was 6 in the morning in Israel. It was Shabbat, Saturday. And in the US, it was a Friday evening. I was basically after dinner with my friends, and we were heading to a bar. And then I'm starting to receive messages on my phone, on my WhatsApp. And then I'm receiving messages, and we are 4 siblings in my family. 2 of my brother and sister lives in the center. And my older sister, she lives in Ashkelon with 4 of her kids. And also my parents lives in Ashkelon. My parents are Shomer Shabbat. They're observing Shabbat. And then I see in the WhatsApp group that they're sending messages. So that was for me very weird because they never use the phone on Shabbat. And the first thing I see...
כן, תקשיבי. עכשיו המשטרה, 2 שוטרים כנראה מג"ב, עברו פה עם חמושים חזק. הם אמרו שיש חדירת מחבלים באשקלון. אמרנו להם, גם עם השכנים, שאנחנו למטה במקלט. אבל אין שם איפה לנעול את זה. הוא אמר שלהיכנס הביתה ולנעול את הדלת. אז בבקשה תהיו זהירים. בבקשה. תשתדלו לנעול את הזה. בבקשה תשמרו על עצמכם.
This is a voice record of WhatsApp of my mother. She's basically saying that you can hear in her voice that she's going on WhatsApp and she's saying, to my sister, please stay at home. Police were just coming next to our house, and they said that there's an invasion of Hamas into Ashkelon, so you have to be locked. Go inside, please, close the door, close the door. And I hear that when I'm in Los Angeles. Not only this, I also see this text message. It's in Hebrew, but here my sister said that she thinks that the rocket hit the house of her neighbors and that the house is all dismantled. This is the street of my sister in Ashkelon, and on the left we can see two of the cars that belongs to them, and that's my sister's car. And my sister, she's a physiotherapist, and her clinic is in her house. Everything was dismantled and ruined. That's the window that's facing the entrance to the house. A shred came in and hit the entrance to her house. Happened to be, there was an AP photographer right outside of her house, so they took a picture of my sister running out with Yuval, her daughter, and one of the neighbors also helped with Roni and Eitan. I don't know how it's happened, but also today in the main page of Israel Hayom, they put the same picture. So imagine that I'm in Los Angeles and I see all of these things and I'm like, what's happening? That's not something normal. That's not like just another session of missiles going into Israel. It's something much more than that. Of course, I'm also getting messages from my team in the WhatsApp group, and I understood that we have been called, Tzav Shmone, and we have been called to join. I call El Al, I'm trying to get a ticket. I get a ticket, and I'm getting to Israel. I'm landing in Israel in October 8th in the evening, and in the morning, my brother-in-law is driving me on road number 6. My team was already in the southern part of Israel, close to the Gaza envelope, and I want to join them. Here, I don't even have a weapon. I don't have my machine here. I'm just like joining my team. And that's the first picture after we use the WhatsApp location. I see the hammers of my friends from my team going from the area of Baf Lachish towards Netivot. Netivot is also a city that got attacked in October 7. And that's the area that we gather there, and we're getting ready for other tasks and other mission. I'm not going to go into this footage of what we've seen, the horror on Road 233, and also the horror about the Nova Festival. I'm not going to share it here. I just want to highlight some other perspective about Gaza and about the battlefield. So just to understand, they took some of our officers from my team, just to show a little bit of the weaponry and equipment that the IDF found after the attack of October 7. This is basically 3 days in one of the bases in Israel that they put it only, this is only a few of it, but see the unprecedented amount of equipment and ammunition. So let's see it. So we can see here that we have AK-47 magazine, machine gun, all kind of explosive device. We can see medical equipment, drones, other medical equipment, all kind of explosive device, hand grenades, other sensitive explosive device, RPG that came from North Korea, Lao, and all kind of weaponry. This is just a few of it. It's like very unheard of to see those kind of like weapons that found only in Israel. Imagine that the raid was happening in the attack. Most of the Hamas were able, because they kidnapped, they were able to go back, but still we can understand from this what was their intention and how far they wanted to go. And of course, we all know that their idea was also to go into areas like Rishon LeZion and Tel Aviv. So this is one thing. So in many wars, we also call the arms race. For us, as a reconnaissance paratrooper, the arms race was to get drones, because up until that time of October 7, we used drones only to take pictures, but nothing tactical. We had to have tactical drones. So a very good friend of mine made his way all the way from Netherlands. He's a former pilot F-16, and now he's dealing with drones in the past year and a half. So that was very important to have him. You know, the IDF is a very big system. So it's very hard to convince at the first beginning the officers why we do need to have tactical drones. There was a whole misunderstanding at the beginning, okay? Whether we're gonna go in like today, tomorrow, the whole preparation, there was a very uncertain situation. That's what it is about war, and also to bring technology when you need to organize with other equipment, that's not something easy, but we did it, and thankfully the drones really help us in the battlefield. So I'm jumping all the way into Khan Yunis. I don't know if you know the map of Gaza, but we have Gaza City, which is like located in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. And this area was taking care at the first beginning of the battle. Jabalia, Bet Hanun, Lahia, all of these areas. But there was also Khan Yunis. Khan Yunis, it's in the southern part. And us, as a paratrooper, as I said, I was a reconnaissance paratrooper, and in my reserve, I was in Division 55. And our mission was to go first into Khan Yunis. Okay, we were the first infantry to go inside and to start also the operation over there. So I just want to share a little bit for you to understand why the fight in Khan Yunis and in general in Gaza, it's very complex and very different from what we know. As you can see, the ground is filled with all of the demolition of the buildings. There is cables all around, meaning that you don't know even where you step. Any place you go, there can be a device, there can be an explosion, and in any time, a militant Hamas can jump out either from a tunnel or either from a house. Let's see it. So here I am. Also, we can see everywhere you go. That's the way the ground is. Very different from what we were familiar in Lebanon and in the West Bank. It's a total disaster to fight in that kind of wars. Now, I want to share one of the operations. We did many of them, but one interesting one. So we got this mission to go into a house that we know it's belonged to Hamas. Now you need to understand that all of the area of Khan Yunis, when we came in, it was already empty. Of course, the army, the IDF is sending notes from the sky before we came in, written in Arabic, saying this is a war zone, evacuate from here, and also we made sure that there's no one inside. So basically the place is empty. You go there, everything is silence. You don't see nothing unless only dogs, sometimes donkeys, sometimes chicken, but that's it. There's no people. No one is there. It's a very dangerous place to be in. Even for us as soldiers, it was dangerous because there's many troops all around. There's choppers in the sky. There's airplanes. There's drones. It's a very dangerous place to be. So any normal human being, of course, wasn't there. Even in the night, everything is dark. There's no lights. You can look for hours and hours and hours far a distance. You don't see nothing in the eyes. And why I'm saying that? Because, of course, whenever you get to see someone, you know it's an enemy, it's a militia. So here we were going into one house. Before we're going inside, we have to shoot into suspicious places because we don't want to be surprised. We go into this house, and then in the garden, we search in the garden and we're shooting to suspicious places, and we come and we are about to shoot into the main door. Right before doing that, we see an old man with white hair. One hand is raising, and the other hand, he has a stick with a white curtain. That was basically a guy that we decided that in that situation, you need to understand it's a common sense. Although, according to the international law, we had the right to shoot at him at the situation that we were at. It's a war zone. I mean, before even we got in, there is like shooting in the peripheral area on us from different places. But at that specific moment, you have your common sense and you have your knowledge, and we decided not to shoot. for the situation, for the way it was. The guy, of course, came out. We told him to raise the hands. We could have seen that we control him from distance, and we know that he doesn't have anything on him. And then behind him, there was a guy also with a hand in the air. He was at the age of 40s. The old guy was in his 50s, 60s. So, of course, we do the whole procedure. We tell them to take off the clothes to make sure there's no explosive, to make sure that there's not an ambush. And you need to understand we are in a battle now. There's like shooting around, and we don't even know if there's someone else in this house. It's a whole complex situation. One thing led to another. We take the guys, we take them aside, and what do? We're starting to interrogate them. We have also special intelligence guys with us that speak fluent Arabic. And we start to ask them. At first, the old guy goes and says, no, we came here because we wanted to make sure that no one is taking things from our house. We wanted to take care of our belongings. Of course, he was trying to fool us. But then we put more pressure. We have our technology. We know how to double check with the picture of the guy. We know his name. And then we're starting to make more pressure. And he don't want to talk. So in a specific moment, what do? We show him, you see, this is the WhatsApp of your daughter. We know about your family. And then we do some other pressure manipulation, and then he starts to talk. And we understand that 2 houses away, this is the house basically of the guy in his 40s. And that we know that he's part of Hamas. And we know that he sent text messages a few days ago to some other Hamas militias. So, of course, we're heading to the other house. And what do we see in the other house, underneath the house, in the garden? It's this.
This is the motorbike of the Hamas
that, the 7th of October.
That came on the 7th of October into Israel. We found like 3 of them.
That's my friend Dvir that was taking this motorbike. So imagine the situation. Of course, I'm not going to go into details this much, but like October 7th for us was a very big thing. Me on my way to the airport on Facebook, I discovered about friends that got killed in this attack, friends from different units. And of course, we were very outraged and very unhappy for the situation. But of course, we know how to do the separation. And that was a big catch. And there was many motorbike like this. That was not only the only part that we found it, but that was one of them and the first one. And of course, in the house, we found other things. We can see here hand grenades, magazines, Motorola connection, explosive device, all kind of documents. And we can see here in the middle, there is a bag of Duvdevan unit. They probably took it from one of the base when they did the 7. Here we can see another explosive and an RPG rocket. This is a map, a very big map that they had in the house. And as you can see, it says Palestine. It's a full map of Israel. Everywhere we go, that's what we see. And here, this is the symbol of the Qassam Brigade. That is, it's the militias of Hamas. This is a different map that we found. Happened to be that they made a whole preparation for an operation back in 2011. Also, where to raid in specific spots into Israel. Everywhere, every place we went, mostly we can see pictures of Yasser Arafat, the former PLO. Head of PLO, many, of course, weaponry, AK-47. And here we can see a picture of Hamas and Abbas, the current head of PLO, with Al-Aqsa Mosque from Jerusalem, with the flag of the Palestinian. Again, here, the full map of Israel with Al-Aqsa Mosque. And again, here with Yasser Arafat. We can see kids jumping into hoop with fire, a picture of a kid holding an AK-47, Kalashnikov. This is an interesting thing that we didn't understand. We go into one of the houses, and then we see this. So that was basically greetings of bat mitzvah of a girl named Ma'ayan that was placed on a wall in a house in Khan Yunis, and we didn't understand what is it. Obviously, there's no special intelligence here, but we thought maybe one of the hostages were here. After we understood it's not, one of our medic, after a while, when we were outside for 48 hours, he looked and he tried to look for the name of the girl, and he did find her. This girl, nowadays, she's 25 years old, and she's originally from Nir Oz. In October 7, she was in the center because she's not living in Nir Oz. Her parents still live in Nir Oz, but the parents was abroad in October 7. Happened to be that the Hamas militia, when they made the attack, they went inside their parents' house, and they took some of the document, and they took some things, and they just posted it on the wall, probably to show their friends what they brought from Israel. So also another interesting story, the same as we saw with the prisoners. We went into this operation and very close to where we stayed in Khan Yunis, in a neighborhood called Bani Suhila. In this neighborhood, we had to go from one house to another. Sometimes we will explode the house and not going in, but sometimes we want to gather information. We want to find weaponry, we want to find information about the hostages, so we do go inside. So we go into first house, second house, and then before we go into the third house, we see someone coming with a white flag. Not even someone, it was a woman in her 60s, very old, sorry to say, fat woman. And then behind her, we see an old guy also raising his hand. And the woman, she was like on the floor. She wasn't standing. And she said, I can't walk, I'm handicapped. And of course, we know that the situation is that basically those people, even if they're not armed, we know that they're there because they're watching and they're providing information to the Hamas. Not only this, there's no way that they were there the whole time because we've been there for a week and a half in that area. There's explosive, there's like tanks, shooting all over. There's no way they could have survived in this house the whole time. So we also understood that they probably came from a tunnel, and there is a tunnel next to that area. One thing led to another. The woman said, I'm handicapped, I cannot go, but we are in a war zone, meaning that we need to move her away because we need to interrogate and we need to take care of the situation. The guy that was with her, he was her brother. He could walk, so he cooperated with us. We took him aside, and then we came back, although it's a very complex war zone. We took a stretcher and we put her on the stretcher to evacuate her from that area. Thankfully, after interrogating them, and interrogating specifically the guy, at the beginning, the same thing. He didn't want to speak. You have to put pressure. And then we realized, he said, okay, yes. Next house next to me, there is Hamas people that's shooting. And I heard they're shooting yesterday and 2 days ago. That's what it says. And I know that they have a tunnel, and they're going from this tunnel to a plastic factory that is just like 200 meters away. And he says, and be careful, I know that there is an explosive in the second house, far from where I live. And thanks to this information, because you need to understand, of course, we're taking them back to Israel and we interrogate them, but the importance is to have the important information in the field when you are in the battle, to understand the current information. And thanks to this interrogation, we understood that there is explosive in the second house next to him, and we didn't go in. That, of course, could have ended in a very different situation. So here, after we finished the interrogation, of course, we had to take her out from the war zone, and this is a short video. But we need to understand, of course, after it's a long time, it's a long process. We provide them water, we are nice to them, and we're not doing it because we have to, because we feel like. I'm gonna speak about that in the question. But the purity of farm is very important, and it's important mainly for us. We're not doing it for them. You know, as an IDF soldier, you have a lot of power, but you need to know how to use this power. And of course, our enemy is using a shortcut. It's easy in the battle to use shortcut, but then it's make it easier for you to fight. Now that's what's make us even more stronger, because we don't use those shortcuts. And you know, if you, in the end of the day, if you're going to use this power in the way they're using this power against them with the shortcuts and like in a very non-humanitarian way, the day can come that we will also act like that towards our kids and towards our friends and towards our family. And that's not the way we are, of course, and that's the importance of the purity of arms. Of course, we also lost friends here. Well, it's a very, very complex situation to explain, but happened to be that, of course, we lost friends. One of them is Alexander Spitz and Shai Termin. It was a very, very complex operation in Khan Yunis. They got killed in one of the houses that we happened to be able to go into these houses after, to come and to find the equipment that was stayed behind, because it was a very big disaster. And then we went inside, we took the equipment, made some research and analysis of the situation, and we did Kaddish on them. So in my division 55, all in total, 12 got killed. I don't know all of them, but in my battalion, 6 got killed. And thankfully, in my platoon, only light injured, and no one got killed or heavy injured. So to finish up with just the idea, so the infrastructure of Hamas, after we finish, most of the time, we need also to eliminate it and to destroy it. So that's to give you an idea. This is like the mines that we put inside. And this is how it looks for the explosion. And that's it. I will take a question from here.
Yoni, thank you. I mean, that was very, first of all, it was very powerful, it was very meaningful, and then thank you for sharing with us. Just historically, for people to know, the 55th Paratroopers Brigade that Yoni's part of, that's the brigade that liberated Jerusalem in the Six-Day War, on the third day of the Six-Day War. It's a very famous brigade, and tragically, the 12 that you showed that were lost in that brigade, those were all reservists.
Exactly, yes.
I assume many of them that were lost left behind widows and orphans.
Yes, the most strategic part of this war, it wasn't for us as soldiers and reservists, because, you know, we know each other since the age of 18. We fought together also in Lebanon. We are good friends. For us, we're doing a lot of fun. That's part of like to handle a situation that is hard, like a war. But the hardest part, as you said, is for the families. Imagine that now you've been taken, okay, for a period of time, unknown period of time. And then you have a wife, you have kids at home, and they don't know when you come back. And every day, every morning, they see that there is a soldier that was fallen and that got killed. And it's that's the hardest part. It's for the family to not know what's happening now. And also the wife cannot go to work normally because she had to take care of the kids, and the kids themselves don't know the situation, don't know what's the father, when he's gonna come back, whether he's good. There's no phone. When you go inside Khan Yunis, even the head, the biggest officer, don't have phone. We don't use the phones, of course, in the first 3 weeks, and no one has it. So it's a whole like big thing. Of course, there was someone in Israel that had a phone and would be in contact in intelligence phone with the troops, and would say to the family every morning, they are good, they are okay, but that's it. So yeah, it's very tough for the family mostly.
Yoni, if you can describe Khan Yunis, our understanding is it's quite densely populated. Is it primarily residential? Is there industry there? What is Khan Yunis like as a city?
Okay, so interesting question. First of all, even me, as someone that lived in Israel and thought that maybe that people in Gaza, I'm not going to go into information, but because of the situation of Hamas and the blockage and everything, they live poorly, they don't have food, they're very miserable. I have to tell you, not at all. Their houses, they have huge houses, huge mansions, bigger than what we have. They have olive trees. Khan Yunis, it's right. If you look at the map, it's like the border of desert. If you go south of Israel, it's parallel to the desert, where Tel Sheva it starts and towards Beersheba. So it's more of a village area, less populated. If you go more to the center of Khan Yunis, then you get to see more and more congested building and neighborhood. But it's like very nice. You have a lot of palm tree. They're living like, like peaceful life and a nice life with everything. They have stores, they have roads. Everything looks like normal, like you go to a normal neighborhood.
Except the fact that they have all those tunnels underneath all of the homes.
Yes.
It's saturated with tunnels.
Yeah, and the tunnel, that's, as you said, we know about that, but you walk in the street and you don't know where are the tunnels because it's underneath the ground. The exit of the tunnels, they're doing it in a very smart way. It's not something that is, you can see it. I mean, it's like hidden. They put stuff on it. Mostly it's like come out from a house, and inside the house it's been hidden. So yeah, you walk and you know that probably someone underneath the ground is there. And not only this, when we come with tanks are making a lot of noise. So it's even easier for them to understand where we are at. Not only that, since of course Khan Yunis is big, there was many cameras all over. So that's also one of the things that you need to be careful of when you operate during the day, and you do have to operate during the day and not during nighttime. Because the war, as I said, it's like a very complex situation. When you have a lot of troops and when you have a lot of drones and choppers, when it's during the night, it can be very problematic. So you operate during the day, and they have cameras, and you can't find all of their cameras. And they're watching and they're looking and they know where we are at, and they're coming from underneath the ground in a certain area, just for few seconds, shooting and then going back. So to say, almost like rats, coming in and out, attacking from here and coming from another place. Very, very complex situation to fight in.
There's so many entrances to the tunnels, you can't find them all, and that's where they come out of.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, go ahead.
I'm making an assumption it'll take 10, 12, 14 months just to take care of all those tunnels. There's 600 kilometers of tunnels. It's going to take a huge amount of time just to block them up and shut them down.
Yeah, so the thing is, as we call it, the conception. I think that no one in Israel, of course, not the IDF, thought that the threat of the tunnels will be that we need to deal with it inside Gaza. Mostly before October 7th, we thought of a scenario and of a situation that the tunnels should not be able to cross from Gaza to Israel. But no one had took into consideration the scenario of them doing October 7th, coming in thousands and be able to kidnap over 200 people. And then when they kidnap them and they're like in Gaza already underneath the ground, then this is where you need to fight them underneath the ground. This is a scenario no one has taken into consideration. And that's the biggest problem, and you're right. Because all of a sudden we had to come inside, and in terms of like the way you fight and how you deal with it, it was new because no one took it into consideration. No one even thought about that situation.
You gave them 4 weeks to evacuate Khan Yunis. 4 weeks they were given. So you gave us 2 scenarios where there were civilians, quote unquote, who were doing reconnaissance for Hamas, but they had no business being there. They should have been gone 4 weeks ago. I mean, as a soldier, there's trouble when you see these people.
Yeah, so as I said, the situation is not normal. It's not like you're going to fight against another army, and you have like the normal habits and the normal rules. You're fighting in a very complex situation, and they know that. That's part of the game. That's part of what they wanted. They are happy that they saw that that we happened to also interfere with civilians, and we could see that even our own soldier got killed because it's a war. You know, if you look at the Second World War and the First World War, most casualties happen from shooting on each other mistakenly. So of course, also for us, that's a complex situation, and have terrorists that are underneath the ground in tunnels, and not only that, having civilians that are making surveillance for them, and you don't want to hurt them because they're like happen to be, I mean, of course, innocent, and they have nothing to do with it. So it's a very, very complex situation. So imagine as a soldier, you are in this battlefield. How many things you need to take care of? Okay, you need to see that in the ground you don't have an explosive, and you need to make sure that someone is going to come now out. It can be a terror, Hamas militia, but also you can have someone in the window that can be a woman that she's in 60, and then we also have a situation of kids with wife, 3 kids, three girls and a wife, 9 years old. We also found them in one of the houses, and of course we knew that they were there. They came from a tunnel, and we go and we have to help them and we give them food. It's a whole complex situation that they did it intentionally, of course. They made it even more hard to make it longer, as you said. It's going to take a long time, the situation. It's a whole playing.
If you could share with us the 55th Brigade of paratroopers that you're a part of, you started on the outskirts of Khan Yunis, you started deep into Khan Yunis. Where were you deployed initially?
So from what I can share, I know it was in the news, the operation in the northern part of Gaza City, that's where we started, because the IDF was happening in one method of like coming in from the first place, making a line and going slowly inside. And of course, we always use the element of surprise, and we had to. We did some stuff and some things before beginning of December about Khan Yunis to let them understand different things about whether and when we come in. But not only that, what we did, and that was also in the news, right away we made a raid all the way 3.5 miles inside Khan Yunis, without taking care of the houses at the beginning, to surprise them. And then after being already inside, from there, starting to go backwards and sending more troops. So that's the way of handling Khan Yunis, and it was very, very, very successful, because we found ourselves like in a place that they didn't even have time to get prepared. They were very surprised that all of a sudden they see us in the middle of Khan Yunis, and they didn't even know about that. So that was the way it was happening in Khan Yunis, the way we did it.
At this point, announced today that they're leaving one brigade to oversee that area of Khan Yunis. At this point, other than those coming out of the tunnels, which is happening every day, on the ground, at least on the surface, there are not many people that you can see. Is that a fair assumption, or is that a fair statement of the facts?
Yes, as I said, I mean, the city is empty. Everything is empty. Everyone has left. It's a war zone. It's a place that, believe me, no one want to be there. Even you as a soldier, you understand it's a very, very dangerous place to be at. So yes, you don't get to see anyone. You know, during the day, what you do, you have a long time. We've been inside for the first time for 3 weeks. Okay, you can't the whole 3 weeks. It's not like the whole 3 weeks you're doing operation. No, the first 5 days was very tensive. But then you're staying in a house, and once in a while you go into operation. So you have a lot of time, extra time, and you're always on a watch. And you want to see someone, you're looking for someone. I mean, differently, very, very different from Lebanon. Lebanon, we saw face-to-face with Hezbollah. Here, most soldiers, most reservists, when we fought, very, very rarely, you would see, of course, you don't see any kind of civilian, and you rarely see terrorists. But I would say, Khan Yunis is a big area. We started from one area and then went to another and then to another, and we could have seen a phenomenon when basically after we finished and we maneuvered to a different area, and an area in Khan Yunis that has been taken care now is abandoned. we could have seen that they're trying to come back in. Which that's also a question, how they can come back in, because the whole area where they were staying, they cannot come and move towards us. They had to come also from tunnels. But people would come. They already know that we're not there because of the cameras. And they would come and they would try to come back, take pictures, trying to understand. And that's also problematic because you have to send troops. You have to make sure they're not terrorists. Some of them, they're taking pictures, some of them understanding where you are, and they give the information back. So that was the only time when we saw them, only after we abandoned a certain place and we moved to another place.
So we've heard from many of the soldiers who fought in Gaza City, in Khan Yunis, and Beit Hanun, Jabalia, the various places, that as they go through various homes, I'll use the analogy, in America, people put up posters of LeBron James, or if you're from Buffalo, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes, or they might have Rihanna or Beyonce or Taylor Swift. It says that they were sharing with us that almost every home had posters, whether it was of the heads of Hamas, whether it was of Shaheeds, who were trying to kill Jews. In other words, the posters they had were very, very military, very gruesome, and always, something that was anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. Is that what you saw in the homes that you went through?
Yes, so as I showed in the slides.
I mean, one of the soldiers I shared, there are certain people who had posters in their homes of the Twin Towers collapsing on 9/11. They said that there were a number of homes that had posters like that as well.
Okay, so I didn't happen to see the 9/11 things, but we did see, as I saw in the slides, photos of Abbas, the current head of PLO. We've seen photos of kids holding an AK-47. We've seen photo of Yasser Arafat. We've seen many photos, and not only this, a whole small books of explaining how an Israeli soldier look like, and how Israeli tanks operates, and where is the entrance to the tank, and where to put the explosive, and a lot of explanation about like how to build an explosive device, and a lot of explanation about the way you need to fight in the battle when you are going to an Israeli base, and when you are going to an area outside of Gaza, close to the Gaza envelope. All kind of those documents, full of them. Of course, for us as combats, what we look is mostly for weaponry. But of course, when you see these documents, when you're looking in the house, we've seen also those things, and we bought it, and they use it back for the intelligence and to understand more about the situation. But yes, there's many kind of it. Nothing from 9/11. We also saw, for instance, a doll that was with the clothes of Hamas uniform. But that's not, we weren't even surprised about that. I know that people that don't know about that, for them it's like a surprise, but for us it was nothing special. I mean, we knew that that's the situation.
And I don't mean this to be a difficult question, but from your perspective, what percentage of the homes had the kind of explanations how to attack an Israeli tank, how to put an explosive device, pictures of Shaheeds, pictures of leaders of Hamas? Of the homes you went into, was it a very high percentage that had that kind of material?
Yes, so basically, I mean, some houses you find this kind of documents, some houses you find those, but there is the very known logo of the El Qassam Brigade. And there is a very known flag of them, and there's very known flag of the Hamas and of the Palestinian. So those were always there. Any house you go, you see it. So there was no question that this house or the other house is different. They're all like pro Hamas, and they're all like part of this thing. You wouldn't find like a house that things are normal. Every house, even if you go to the drawers next to the bed in the sleeping area, you'll find those things when you open the drawers. Everywhere in any house. Some houses you will even find weaponry. Some houses you won't find documents about like how to attack tanks, but all of them you find those flags and you find those symbols that has to do with Hamas.
So the narrative that is a minority that's oppressed the population, the facts do not support such a narrative. The facts support a very different narrative, that the population is quite supportive of Hamas and is participating in this.
Yeah, I want to give just a different perspective, because I think that people don't remember. First of all, whether they are with them or whether they were not, the part of the problem is that they are using a brutality. There's no way for people that lives in Gaza to choose what they want. They have a dictatorship. Whoever says what he wants, he knows that his family is gonna die the day after, and that's most of the problem. So most people, they rather just join those militia and those Hamas, because they know that their life is going to be better. It's like having a mafia next to your house. You know, you're living in an area or in a neighborhood, regardless, like somewhere in the world. Let's say, I don't know, in Brazil, you have a mafia, and you know that if you're going to be against the mafia, then your life is going to be poor and you're always going to be in problems. So that's the most case scenario. But people forget who was ruling Gaza up until 2007. In Gaza, up until 2007, the regime was the PLO, Fatah, okay? And in 2007, we had election. Who won the election in 2007? Hamas. And what Hamas did when they won the election, they went into the parliament building in Gaza, of where the Fatah was staying. They went into the 8th floor, they took the parliament member, and they just threw them from the window. All of the people from the parliament of the Fatah went down, took their bodies, put them in cables around their legs, and drove with a car all around Gaza. This is pure brutality that has nothing to do with the conflict, has nothing to do with Israel, has nothing to do with anything. That's the way those people are acting. And with this brutality, tell me what you can do about that. It has nothing to do with us. And you see it all over the world in many other Arab countries. So when you have dictatorship and when you have a regime that won't let other people, so I might tell you, yes, some people might gonna be for Israel. You know, one of the prisoners that we caught, the old guy, he spoke fluent Hebrew, almost fluent Hebrew, because he was a teacher. And he goes, and I ask him, why you did October 7? It was not long after. Why you did this attack? And he goes, no, I didn't, of course, I'm not, I don't know if it was fooling me or not, but they don't even have a choice. And that's the game that Hamas are playing. Look in Lebanon. The many people that live nowadays in Lebanon hate Hezbollah. They are miserable because of that. Can they do something? They cannot. That's the situation.
Last question. Share with us the spirit, the mentality of the troops, particularly the 55th Brigade. You know, you are all professionals. You have lives, whether your lives are in America, Israel, wherever it is you're living. You have businesses, you have relationships, and you drop everything, and you spend 3 to 4 months protecting Israel, protecting humanity, protecting Western civilization. Not easy. To put it mildly, not easy. And you lose, like you showed pictures, 12 of these reservists lost their lives doing this. And what you're doing every day, you're looking at a chance of losing your life. There's booby-trapped homes, there are snipers, there are Hamas members coming out of the tunnels. What was the spirit? What was the determination? What was the mentality of the various platoons that you participated in?
So, good question. So, you know, it's hard to understand, but it's not like they brought us all of a sudden from civil and they put us in a team and now we have to fight. You know, in my unit, the training period is 1 year and 4 months. During all this period of time, you can be kicked out if you're not good enough mentally and physically. And the most important thing that our officer took care from the first beginning, after 2 weeks, even starting in the period of training, it's the camaraderie, knowing each other. For myself, even when I speak about Lebanon, even about Gaza, I felt that I could have handled the situation and the hardship because I was there as a saving angel for my friends. As long as you know your friends so good and you know everything about them, you don't concentrate about yourself in this situation. You concentrate about them and you feel like you're there to protect them. So our officer from the first beginning of the training, would come all of a sudden and ask me, Yoni, how many brothers Nathaniel has? And then, okay, I realized I need to understand, like, not only Nathaniel, I need to understand his family. And Benaya, who lives the southern part of Israel? They made us had to know each other. They made had, another example is like when you're doing with equipment, we always have to be united with our equipment. For instance, you go out for training, it's sunny outside. It's either everyone has a hat on their head or no one has it. Let's say you lost it or you forgot to bring it, doesn't matter. If you don't have it with you, everyone will take off their hats. That's the mentality that they teach you from the first beginning. That's what there is respect from you, and then you get to know your friends very, very close. And this camaraderie, sometimes it sounds like a cliche, whatever, what is this definition? But that's the most important thing that make you able to deal with the situation. And of course, always laughing. I have videos, I'm not going to show it now. Always laughing, always make, smiling with each other. That's what helps you to cope with the situation. Because, as men, you're never really going to speak to your friend or your fellow and tell him, oh, listen, I'm afraid. But happen to be that when you laugh about the situation, it's a way of saying like, okay, I know what I'm feeling. I know what you feel. Here I am. And that's helps. So throughout the whole time, as you said, the 3-4 months being there, always laughing, always making shtuyot and balagan, and like that's what keep us, deal with the situation, brotherhood basically. And another example I want to give, my officer used to say, hard in the training is in battle. We need to understand the training is very, 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 very hard. I'm going to give you one example of like how the training looks like. So after being in the training for the first month, you're going on a march. A 6-mile march that you go, and you know that that's a very, very intensive one. You go outside of the base camp. It's dark. You have to keep on the pace with all the team. There's no way you stand behind. If you are behind, it's problematic. You don't make it. You don't make the first march. You're probably not going to make it to finish the year in 4 months. All of your body hurts. You have blisters all over. You can't see nothing. It's in the dark. Then you get to an area, you see the base camp. From far away, you see the lights. You put the stretcher on. Stretcher is when you put the injured soldiers. We put water on it. 4 stretcher like this. After walking so long and very, 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 very high pace, then we're marching and we're running to the base with the stretcher on up. You get to the base camp, you get to the platoon area, take off the stretcher, and you can't even walk. You feel like, and the day after you have a Krav Maga session, you don't even know what awaits for you the day after. You only have 12 minutes to get shower, you don't have phones, you have to get ready, and then you go to your bed. And in your bed, you have a small note saying, congratulations, you finished 8-mile march. Then you realize you did 8 miles and not 6 miles. And then you have a candy, a crembo next. You're so happy. You go into sleep. You don't know what's await for you the day after. And then after 45 minutes, the officer comes in. 7 minutes, stretchers in the air. You are in shock. You can't believe that that's what's happening now. Everyone is like, we're taking ready. Of course, we don't make it on time. And then they make us run from one place to another. Another 5 minutes, ready with the stretcher, and go for another 8-mile march. And then you understand, has nothing to do about your muscle, has nothing to do about your physical, everything is here. And that's what makes you ready for those situations. Hard in battle, hard in the training, easy in battle.
Yoni, thank you. You've been extremely gracious with your time, with your thoughts, and with your insights. And we're profoundly grateful to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the support. My pleasure.
We're profoundly grateful to Yoni for really being so open, so thoughtful, and giving us an insight into what they've gone through over the course of the last 6 months.